This conference will now be recorded.
Sorry. Items of community interest here. The Hcedc Public Library will be closed July 28 and 29 to allow staff to the new integrated library system. Okay. So in other words, they're going to be practicing with it or whatever. So. Okay. Alrighty. So that's all we have on that one. Number 3, we're going to discuss, consider, and act, approve meeting minutes from our last meeting of June 29th. Kathleen, did you see anything that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Katrina, let's go. Let me ask you about members present. Okay. Under members present, you have Jessica's name twice. You caught it. Thank you.
My name's not present.
Okay. So I see you corrected. Okay. Let me ask you something. Okay, who are the two alternatives? Let's look at the members present. Okay, Patricia Hilborn and Al Burton, are they the alternates? Okay. So every one of those people up there were here last month. Oh, all righty. That corrects that. Let's see. Should alternatives be? Yeah, see.
In my packet, I've got the right one. I've got 22.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. There's a good one. Got the wrong one in the packet.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
All right, let's, okay. My question also is, do we designate the alternatives as being alternatives? Because we've got 7 votes, right, and 2, right? So do we need to designate Patricia Hilborn and he wasn't here.
Yeah, Al.
Al wasn't here, so Patricia is an alternate, right?
Yeah. He came in a little late. Oh, okay.
Huh. Right. Okay. So it's okay to include them as, all right. Okay. All right, let's see, this was the, okay, let me see if this one is correct on number 3. The ayes, Steve, Ruthie, okay, that was Yeah, pick it up early. Okay. Let's see. Any quick- No. So I move that we accept the June 22nd minutes as written.
I have a second.
I second.
Okay. Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'm gonna go to 4. Consider an act regarding financial statement. Marcy, you got anything you can tell us about that? Nothing changed, added or subtracted? Or
I have a question. Has the deal closed now? If that's why the money has moved over? The title company has, is going to issue title insurance.
What project are you talking about? Oh, that deal is done. It's over.
It did close.
It's closed.
Okay, thank you.
actually, it probably closed, what, 3 weeks ago, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so we got that. So we need to, I need a motion and a second on the financial statement for the month.
I move to approve the financial statement for June 2022.
All righty.
second.
Okay, and we have a second. So we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any further questions before we vote on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous. All right, let's move down here to number 5, action items. Discuss, consider, and act regarding a position of EDC coordinator.
Mr. Chairman, if you may, we have, of course, our economic development director resigned, and it gave me reason to think, what is it that we need? And in the course of things and speaking with Mr. Chambers, way prior to his resignation, about his activities in economic development, he admitted that he had never worked as an economic development director in his tenure here at Haslett. He was always on a project such as Haslett Parkway, being the project manager for Haslett, and nothing related to economic development. Yes, he was here at the meetings for Type A and Type B, but he had not actually performed any economic development pursuits of anything of that nature. He did go to meetings, but short of that, he said, I've never, his words, worked in that role. And not particular what the reasons are, but I did give pause to think about, many years ago, we were in a situation where we were essentially out here by ourselves many years ago. And it would be good if we could draw in some businesses. And so there was then cause, maybe I'll call it go beat the drum, come to Haslett. But that's not the case today. Today, the world knows the address of Haslett, Texas. Why? Because we are in probably one of the most desired logistic areas in the United States. We have Alliance Airport. It's an international logistics airport. And we have Burlington Northern, one of the largest hubs. And we have a great highway system, both on east and west sides of us. We are constantly fielding calls of businesses that want to come to Haslett, Texas. We're in a position now to say pick and choose. And in short, we don't, now that's not a full-time activity. It's not all day long of taking calls about that. So therein lies, I got to thinking about the position. Is it an economic development director or is it an economic development coordinator? Someone to coordinate this activity for us because people are pursuing Haslett now. So I settled on this economic development coordinator, a person who could take these calls, follow up on the meetings, someone who understands the nature of Haslett. What business would be good for Haslett? What would complement our community? Be able to assess a business and maybe the potential tax revenue that it would bring, either sales tax and or ad valorem, and be able and be that interface to Type A and Type B, as well as the city. There's 3 entities here. And the more thought I gave that, I realized that a thorough understanding of our planning, our zoning, was needed for that as well. What parts of town might be available for a particular kind of business to help them? And that led me to think of Mr. Morris Schwenke. Morris is our planning director. And I approached Morris and asked him, have you had any experience with economic development? And he said yes, though he had not worked as a full-time economic development director and or coordinator. Throughout his entire career, he had worked with them. And by nature and what happens today, not by that we put a sign out there or anything on the website, if you're a business, call the planning director, but they just by nature call the planning director. Once in a while, I'll receive the call, and then I always and have been handing it over to Morris. That's after Thad had left. So I approached Morris and asked him if he'd be interested in something like that. And he said yes. But by default, he's already been fielding these calls and have had multiple meetings thus far, whether it's people wanting to build a headquarters up on I-35. In fact, several companies, in lieu of warehouses, we're constantly saying no to warehouses on I-35, our front door. That's not what we want to present up there. And we got our fair share of warehouses. And God bless them, they're good on the ad valorem and they're low maintenance. But what I would put forward to you, would you pass out the resumes? Oh, you did? Well, thank you very much. She's wearing camouflage. I didn't see. Anyway, I just wanted to present Morris Schwenke to you for your consideration to take as economic development coordinator, to work with your board, work with Type A, and work with the city. So let me turn it over to Mr. Schwanke, and if you'd give them a synopsis of your background.
I'd be more than happy to.
And then commissioners, ask your questions, please.
Well, I have a master's degree in urban planning and geography from Kansas State University, so don't hold that against me since we're in Texas now. But I got down here as fast as I could. In 1976, I started with the city of Arlington as a planner and worked my way up to the assistant director of planning for the city of Arlington. After my tenure there for 6.5 years, I went on to a consulting business of my own, and I did that for 22 years. The economy went a little bit down, so the city of Anna said, since you're doing so much work for us, come up here and be our planning director. So I was their first planning director. I ended up being their building official, their parks director, and their GIS person. And for 9 months, I was their interim city manager. So I wore a few hats like you have to do in a small city. At the time I started there, they did not have an economic development corporation, but they soon after started, and I worked hand in hand with them. Being in the planning department is one of those things where the first place any firm starts at is looking at the website, looking at your comprehensive plan, looking at your zoning ordinance, and then making a phone call to the planning department. And it's a place where a lot of times the uses are vetted out. Are they appropriate, for your city, or are they not? And that's what I've been doing for a number of years. And I worked hand in hand with their EDC once they got it established and made many presentations to them. And that's what I've been doing for most of my career is helping cities and working with their EDCs, CDCs, and also doing all the reviews, plan reviews, whatever came in, plat reviews, writing new subdivision ordinances, working with comprehensive plans and making sure businesses fit, and then analyzing the businesses and see if you really want to have them in the city. And we've actually had some in the last couple of weeks that I've said, no, go away. We really don't want you. It's one company, I told the A corporation, I said, they reinvented ugly. And I said, that's not what Hazlet needs. And so I told them they needed to go on. And so they did. But, it's those kind of things that I do, and I've been doing all my career. But I'm here happy to answer any questions you might have for me.
Does anyone have any questions?
What do you
True.
see as the future?
Well, as has been alluded to, we're at a location where we're a place where we can actually vet the companies and actually attract the ones that we want without really going out there and looking for them, because they're looking for us. As the mayor mentioned, we have a lot of things going for us in between Fort Worth and the Alliance Airport, where there's a lot of synergism here, where a lot of things are attracted here. And it's really a matter of making sure that the appropriate uses come here, ones that will, create jobs, attractive, and also don't encumber the city with a lot of problems and traffic congestion, whatever.
So I'm assuming that there's more to this presentation as far as what we would pay Mr. Schwanke, what type B's share would be of his total cost. But I'd like to just address the presentation because I don't actually have any questions for Mr. Schwanke at this time. The mayor said that we didn't have an economic development director, that all he did was work on projects. But I want to remind you of 3 major economic development projects that this board participated in addition to Hazlet Parkway, which I think is an economic development project because when he worked with the property owners to secure rights of way, he did it with a look to the future of our future economic development. And that's what a director does. He directs things for the benefit of the city. But let's look at the other three projects that immediately come to mind. The hotel. Now, negotiations are required in any kind of development that comes in, whether we give them any kind of special deal or whether they pay us any kind of special thing. But a really important thing that happened with the hotel is our negotiations included them requesting to be annexed into the city because they were in our ETJ. And if that hotel is built in our ETJ, there's no sales tax, there's no property tax forever. So the other property that's on I-35 that's Hcedc is our ETJ. So we need a professional, trained person to be able to work with the negotiation of that point. It sounds like what this job that is being proposed is someone to answer the phone and either send it to the call to the mayor or not. Two other projects, the ATF and Amazon Air. Now, whether, and I don't recall what the negotiations entailed, but there were and there always are on important projects. And that's something that our economic development director did for the city. And he brought to us the information we needed to make the right decisions. So it's much more, there's much more needed than just a coordinator, whether they contact us or whether we pursue them. And as far as us not needing to pursue anybody, well, maybe we do. You know, maybe we get an idea of a kind of business that we want here, and maybe we want to find that business and bring it to Hcedc because it's a great fit. But that's not included in the proposal that's being made today. So I feel I do not feel comfortable eliminating this position because we don't need it. I think right now we need someone who leads, directs our economic development more than ever. Someone who is forward, has a vision for Hcedc that matches what we've been doing, what we want to do for our city. One other thing I found interesting about the mayor's speech was that he seems to have given Mr. Schwenke a promotion because we didn't hire a planning director because he told the council we didn't need a planning director. We needed a plan reviewer. And that's what Mr. Schwenke's title is, unless it's just recently changed. So calling him planning director seems a little odd because that sounds like he's directing our planning department. So before we vote to eliminate another staff position and go with consulting with a consulting firm of any kind, whether it's Mr. Schwenke's or someone else's, I think we should take pause in that. And you know, I've only been on the board for a year, but before then, you guys know how dedicated I have been to the city and how important economic development is to the city, and that's why I'm speaking. And I am going to be able to vote tonight, which I'm grateful for that. I'm sorry that Ruthie couldn't be here, but I am grateful to have the opportunity to vote. And I think we need to keep someone on staff leading our economic department. Thanks, but I do hope you will address what the cost is involved in this.
Chairman, would you like from me? Let me address the remainder of it.
Sure, go ahead.
Is with regard to the cost, we look at this activity probably about $40 hours a month, I believe it is. It's not a full-time position, the activity that we have. And my comments with regard to previous director were not my words. They were his verbatim. That's how he viewed it. So those were none of my opinions, just relaying the words that he expressed. With regard to The cost, we've estimated it to be just under $40,000, I believe 38,000 something and some change. And I would propose that EDC, A, and the city split that third, and a third. The previous position, I believe there was a package of around $175,000 a year, all in, all in. This one's, and it's not about the money. It is the position itself. And Mr. Schwanke has all those capabilities to address those issues brought forth. So it's not a thing just taking phone calls and shoving it to the mayor. So is there any questions that you have for me on that?
I have a question, Mayor. Will we be able to call Mr. Schwanke as we have called our economic development director in the past with questions about current projects, past projects, future projects? Are we at liberty to just pick up the phone and call him as if he was on staff?
Yes. I mean, he will work for
Hourly.
Type A,
Hourly?
Type B.
Hourly? So my phone call to him will be charged to the city, and that's.
He'll be charged to you.
I'll just give you my credit card.
No, it'll be charged to your corporation, the Economic Development Corporation Type B.
But so do we have the liberty then to make those calls? Are we going to be?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Swanky will work for your board. He'll represent you at each of these meetings. And he'll also be that conduit for the Type A and also for the city. So you have three corporations here, EDC, A, B, and the city.
So you're projecting that he's going to be working 40 hours a month?
Approximately.
And in what way do you anticipate that 40 hours? I mean, if we're going to be charged phone calls, contact, that's not included in that 40 hours?
No, you're not going to be. We're planning on his activity, including your phone calls and any phone calls from other, prospects, that we're just estimating it'd be around 40 hours a month for the three entities. And it will be on an hourly rate, so it's a as needed type basis. And so he only puts in 30 hours a month, one given month, he bills 30 hours worth. If he should happen, there's a project going on there and it takes a lot of his attention and time and resource, and he were to bill 50 hours for that month, then he'll bill 50 hours for that month. It'll be on that his rate as we already have as a planner.
What is his rate?
$150 an hour, I believe it is. Did that answer? It's $150 an hour.
How many hours does he bill right now as a planning reviewer for the city?
It's different every month, but it ranges from 30 hours to 60 hours.
And then my second question is, I think the thought was that with Hazlitt Parkway, we'd see a lot more economic development come for the city once Hazlitt Parkway is done, and actually probably before it's done. So how do you foresee just having an economic coordinator for that position if we're expecting our economic development to rev up in the near future?
I'm sorry. An interesting thing about Hazlitt Parkway, when you look at Hazlitt Parkway, much of it is industrial lined, meaning warehouses, and a smaller percentage of it is actually for commercial retail. And what I expect when that goes in is they will be calling the city. That you don't have to go actively out. Now, if we identify something, if one of the boards, say such as B, you go, I'd like to have XYZ business here. Mr. Swanky will pursue that.
So we will have the ability, if we want something, if whatever store it might be, commercial activity, we can contact him and he will be obligated to research that.
Absolutely. He understand this. He works for you. The Economic Development Type B Corporation. He works for you. He'll be you're one of the three entities that he'll work for. So you as a board, now, to an individual, you have, your power lies, and just like the council, it's not an individual, it is the board. If you have a discussion among yourselves, well, I'd like to pursue XYZ company. And I think they complement our city and they could bring us some good revenue. And the board, all in favor? Yes. Majority votes. That's how you make your decision as a board. Now for anybody, if you think that if you start calling individually, you could have anybody on a rabbit trail chasing multiple companies. But you as a board, as a body, make that decision if you want to pursue a specific business. And that's fine. And then you assign that to your representative, to your economic development coordinator. And that likewise is the same role or same method of which A would take, and the same method that the council would take.
So if he gets called for prospective retail, will you then come before us to see if we want that retail business?
Yeah, if there's a retail business that comes forward and after I take a look at them and see what they want and analyze what they can offer to the city, I'd definitely bring it before the board. There's a lot of retail things that you'll have that are going to be allowed by right, whether this board says yes or no, just because of the zoning ordinance. But there are times where we can encourage and times where we can discourage. And that's part of my job, is to go down those rabbit trails with each individual company.
With Hcedc Parkway, the understanding that I had is that we have always been hopeful of encouraging the planning and zoning committee to change the zoning from the industrial that a lot of it is to a more retail, more economic development type of zoning along that. Is that still an interest or not?
Let me address that. Is that industrial probably brings around $4.50 a foot buying property, buying the land. For commercial, it might be $2.50 a foot. For residential, now you're $1.50 at a top price. No. So a person out there that owns this present, it's already zoned industrial, and you were to rezone it to commercial, you have devalued his property. And that is called, in the court, that's called a taking. They will sue you, and you pay the difference to them, and you own nothing. and you don't change the zoning either. So it's a sure way to spend a lot of money and nothing to happen. So that, I'm taking that explanation to say that answers, no one will do that. It's for that reason. That's why it hasn't been done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it more effective to hire a consulting firm than it is to hire a full-time employee?
Well, it's not a full-time activity. I'll put it that way. That's just where we are. It is not a full-time activity. It's less than, I'll say, half-time. But expertise is needed when it comes up. Knowledge of the city, its planning and zoning, and what is complementary to the city, someone who understands our city, and also having the ability to assess these different businesses and bring them to you and give you their input and any analysis on that business. That's what's needed, is that skill set. But it's not needed sitting here 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And also as part of a corporation, you got many other people he can pull from. As an in-house person, that's what you have. Now, not, there's a time and place, for other cities to maybe have that full-time position, but there is not another city like Haslett in the setting that we have, with one of the most sought after logistics industry settings in the United States or in Texas. I'll limit it to Texas, but I venture to say United States. It's one of the hottest places to be. And with all the warehousing that we have and all the people that pass through, which is a blessing and a curse. But anyway, and then the housing subdivisions that we have going up. There are some small pockets along Hcedc Parkway that will be for commercial. In fact, I think the Caraway subdivision has a small pocket up in the northeast corner. Actually, it'd be the southeast corner of one Hcedc Parkway and I-35 in that area. They're just off the highway, though. But that is something that I'm sure the Caraway people will drive, is getting in that local retail to serve those local subdivisions. And any assistance that Mr. Schwenke or whoever has that position can lend, they certainly will. But the remainder of Hcedc Parkway, much of it's all industrial. And there are plans already for industrial. So, we get to see this way in advance for those warehouses to be built. So much of it will be warehousing. And then, but there are other areas of Hcedc besides Hcedc Parkway, small areas. It's like you got a piece of property or a type, Type B owns it over there next to Mr. Lee's. We're getting calls and we've been working and it brought Mr. Schwenke into the fold of it, trying to find someone that can get there. It's a perfect space for, we have a entity that's pursuing with regard to a barbecue facility. Maybe he's not the right one, but it'd be a great location for something like that. And that would complement Hcedc. I would love to be able to go get a barbecue sandwich again, and that's something that adds to our community. Things like that. They're not huge. We're never going to be an Alliance Town Center. We're never going to rival Presidio. It's not going to happen. We're not laid out that way. So what we can do is build on who we are, what we are, and make it the best community and complementary to our community as possible. And there are, I'll tell you, in the last week, probably gotten about 5 calls with regard to here in Old Town, and some of it would be highly objectionable, and some it's very attractive. So they're calling. Haslett has not experienced that in the past, but we are now. And it's important for us to recognize who we are and in the position that we're in and where we are. I think that I have a lot of confidence in Mr. Schwenke. I hope you would. I think he'll do a fine job. I think the cost split is very fair, a third of each board. And it would be, I think you get a lot of dollar value of it. And if you're not happy, you can certainly change your mind at any time.
Do we currently have a city attorney?
Yes, we do.
My question is, will this gentleman be able to contact the city attorney if he has questions?
Oh,
regarding
absolutely.
legal?
In fact, all these positions work together regularly. I mean, there's no every position, you know, whether it's EDC related or it's Mr. Rogers or even our finance director or Miss White, our city secretary, fire marshal, they've all had occasion to call the attorney. And they're all where they are now, our staff, they interact without permission. They're doing their job. We're all here. The best thing I could ever do is facilitate these folks to do their job. And that means interact. All of you together get the job done. And it takes all of you to do it. And it takes communication and cooperation and keeping each other informed. And we do that regularly. And there is no someone, yes, you can call, no, you can't. Yes, you can, no, you can't. No. If they need to call, they need to email, send something for review, or have a question, they do that freely.
Is he going to be on an open contract, or is it going to be 6 months, a year of how?
It's an open contract.
It's an open contract. Okay. Does anybody else have anything before we move on?
I do. And Mr. Swanky, I mean, no disrespect with this. It's just a question. If you feel like we have businesses knocking our door down to get in here, my expectation would be there would be firms similar to Mr. Swanky's that are also wanting to help our economic / planning. So is our, just clarification, are we clarifying whether we need a coordinator tonight, or are we clarifying that Mr. Swanky will be that tonight?
I'm asking you to appoint Mr. Swanky as the coordinator.
So are there any other options that we could consider? Or is this a...
This is the only one on this agenda.
I know, I'm way out here. So just a couple of things that you didn't cover that I'm sure you can. Who will be setting this corporation's board of directors agendas?
The agenda is, of course, Katrina White will still be functioning in the same role she does, nothing changes.
But she doesn't say what goes on the agenda, though. That was Thad
The
that did
primary
that.
role, the person who says what goes on the agenda is the chair. That's the primary job of the. And so I see as, someone like Mr. Swanky would give a suggestion of the agenda and provide it to the chair. But the chair ultimately makes the decision what goes on this agenda
Prior to the meeting.
prior to the meeting.
Is that how it's worked in the past? Okay. So Mr. Schwanke would be able to perform that duty as part
Oh,
of what he does.
absolutely.
Okay, how about the reports that we get every time we meet? For instance, the economic development report, Hcedc Parkway construction, although I think David is doing that. But I guess the big one is the economic development report.
The things, the old items that existing staff will finish those out, but any new items, Mr. Schwanke will provide those reports.
Okay, and the only other question I wanted to ask you to address is, I think when John was asking you about zoning changes along Hcedc Parkway, I think he might have been referring to the future land use map, which the P&Z has considered looking at. And could you address how that could possibly be accomplished, that we might put something on the future land use map that kind of signals?
I'd be happy to, because they work hand in hand. And there's been, some things have been a little misleading with regard to the zoning map and the future land use. So let me grab, I think we got one of each up here. Let me grab it. So no, but we need to set it up.
Mr. Swanky, it's an idle question that I have. So he mentioned that you had a corporation that could provide services to the city. How big is that corporation?
We have 78,000 employees worldwide. So we're a fairly substantial company. We represent 240 cities in Texas, 120 actively on a day-to-day basis. And then we have another 120 on an as-needed basis, where basically a lot of smaller cities, sometimes their staff goes on vacation, we fill in for them. When their staff comes back, or, we sort of disappear until that phone call comes again. So, but we do have people all over the state here in Texas but most of our stuff in Texas is under plan and inspections, plan review and inspections. We work with cities all the way down to Dorchester, which has 148 people, who I'm currently working a couple days a week in Abilene because they lost all their staff to some of the cities in the Metroplex. And so I've been going out there 2 days. In fact, after this meeting, I'll get on my horse and ride out to Abilene, and I'll be there until Friday. But I still field calls. I still have my cell phones, computers, and stuff. But it's whatever. And that contract's just about up because they've got their staff. I've been training their young people coming up, and there's an overlap. So they're taking off, and we're going to let them go here in about another week or so.
Great.
So it's whatever people need.
Okay. That's really a shocking number. I'd never heard of your firm, so that's more comforting than I thought it'd be. Thank you.
No, I'm not by myself. In fact, I have a person that works under me that lives in Georgia. She does all my computer aided drafting I need. We've got a big project down in Kerrville, and she's handling that for me.
So let me start. Here's some of the uh, here's your Hcedc Parkway. So here you are. All of this. All industrial. All of it. That's all of it. But here lies this document. By purpose. Got it. But So these areas along here, this is our part of it. It does not create. This is those all this area, all cannot build a warehouse, nor can you build a house. So the task point technology, and then for the opportunity of areas such as ag, digital, like there is no like to a problem. No, I like to have this for the concept of or cause both sides. Both sides. This is some like so Okay, thank you, Mayor. Guys, we kind of went down a rabbit hole because the only thing we're really considering right now is 5.1. We need to go with that. Does anybody have any questions concerning 5.1?
I have a question. So, Mr. Schwenke, so you had mentioned that right now you're spending about 30 to 60 hours as a planning reviewer for the city. And then the mayor is expecting on average maybe 40 hours a month just clarify, I said 30 to 60 a month on planning review and then 40 a month on EDC activities. So knowing that tied in with the other cities that you serve, do you expect any issues as far as juggling too much? I know you kind of mentioned the staff that you guys have, and just want to see if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, I don't foresee any problems. You know, what I do with some cities, they might have a site plan that needs to be reviewed an hour and a half. With Hcedc, you know, when I do, talk with people and review plans, whether you like it or not, I'm working with economic development things. And so there's really a crossover. They really marry together really well. But no, I don't see it as a problem. My workflow there's ebbs and flows in it. Just like I mentioned, I'm doing work out in Abilene. Well, that one's about ready to come to an end. And so I'll have 2 days extra a week. Now I got to figure out what to do. So I'll find something to do. But there's plenty of work out there. But I'll fit Hcedc in, and you'll be happy.
Okay. Anyone else?
And then I have another final question for the mayor.
Oh, okay. Go
Sorry.
ahead.
To Steve's point, when you were considering this EDC coordinator position, before deciding on presenting Mr. Schwenke to council and the EDCs, had you considered possibly hiring another firm that maybe specializes in EDC activities that would really hone in on what Hcedc has to offer?
No, I didn't. I'm one of those people, when I recognize what I want, I go for it. I don't need to keep looking. I recognized a skill set that I thought would be highly desirable. I recognized a person that I thought would be highly desirable representing Hcedc in these negotiations. So I didn't. No, I didn't. There was no need for it. Not in my mind.
Okay. I guess we're up to somebody making a motion, and we second it if that's what y'all want to do.
Okay, I like what I heard tonight. I think Mr. Twinkie is well versed in this type of work. He's working with a large firm with a large amount of resources, and he has already worked with the city and proven himself, obviously, to the mayor. So I recommend that we go ahead and approve this position. So this is my first time to make a recommendation, so, okay. I don't use the word motion? Oh, okay, I'd like to make a motion regarding the position of the EDC coordinator with Mr. Morris Swanky as the candidate.
Let me ask something. It'd be not as a candidate, but in that position. There's a difference. And that, Mr. Chair, I was speaking to you. You can direct your commission as you desire.
Okay. No, that's correct. You're just going to make the motion that we retain Mr. Swanky regarding the position of EDC coordinator.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Anybody have anything further? Okay, all in favor? Okay, did you vote, Trish?
I'm opposed.
Okay, so we have, everyone's, Trish is opposed and everybody else is affirmative, yes. Okay, so let's move on to, 5.2, discuss, consider, and act regarding, city council regarding the proposed, HCEDC 2022-2023 budget sheets. Is this something that Marcy's going to tell us about?
Yes, I prepared the budget worksheets, much like we do every year. I don't really put anything in there other than what I know is happening or, isn't really open for negotiation, like the debt service payments and things like that. But so what I've included in your budget worksheets are the revenue projections, many of which, the major one being the sales tax, is projected those in conjunction with the overall city budget as a whole and what we expect to see on your revenues. Interest income has increased a little bit since the interest rates have gone up. And those are the major changes that I made to your budget, other than down in the expenditure section where the personnel services and benefits are. Obviously deducted those since we no longer have an employee fulfilling that. We don't have salaries or any of those benefits associated with the employee. All of your other operations and maintenance expenditures, I've just pretty much left. Historically, you haven't changed your line items very much from year to year, so I've just left them the same unless I saw something, that was definitely going to change, like I said, like the principal payment and your interest payment on your debt. And so the rest of those items are up to your discretion. One of the things that when we were having the Type A meeting earlier, Type A also approved the appointment of Mr. Schwenke. And due to the nature, as the mayor spoke to, of a lot of these businesses coming to us, a lot of your expenditures may not be needed, such as your travel and training and some of the conferences and events that the prior director might have attended. If we're able to select from, what's coming to us already, Type A had directed me earlier today to eliminate some of those expenses, and you may wish to do the same. But when I prepared the worksheets, was not yet known what was going to happen with the position, and so however you wish to budget the rest of your expenditures, that's truly up to you. We will not be approving the budget as a whole until later on in September. And so you will have another opportunity to look at your budget at your August meeting prior to the adoption. I will be filing the proposed, the mayor will be filing the proposed budget on this coming Friday. And so obviously it'll be the proposed. And if you wish to have anything different than what I've presented tonight in the proposed, I can certainly make those changes on the fly. However, if you'd like to wait till your August meeting to make your final decision on the budget, as well as, further discuss any of these items, you can do that as well. It's up to you.
Does everybody have this in their packet? I didn't look at my packet. Yeah, okay. Okay, then
Okay.
I would suggest that everybody look at it and then highlight whatever you think doesn't need to be in there, and then bring it back to the August meeting to finalize. Does that make sense?
Marcy?
I would like to make a comment to that, Chair, is the sooner the better, because that's a late date, and that's, we're wrapping things up by that time, and then we'll lay in a change here. So may I make a suggestion? Is that you have the budget as is, which reflects some older cost, is A went through and made some suggestions, and it had to with deleting costs associated with a full-time position primarily. And they're going to take the same thing. They're going to meet again with that. But what Marcy is going to do, she's going to make those changes, and then she make a PDF and then send it out to those commissioners right away. And they will review it. And if they have any comments, they're going to send it back and get their comments as individual and incorporate these things. And that's great. And you can do that. And so that's what I would suggest that happen here is I'm just a suggestion, is that maybe Marcy reflects changes that A had proposed and put this back to you. Email you with a PDF of the changes, and it'll be here in the very
Okay,
soon.
let me ask you this. Basically, the personal services and benefit, salaries, car allowance, cell phone allowance, Medicare.
So all that can
disability.
go away.
Yeah, all that should go away anyway, long term.
I've already eliminated.
Yeah.
The expenses that I'm talking about are more some of your marketing, in your marketing department, where there's travel and some of the membership and things like that. And what I did with the A is after the meeting, and I sat down, looked at some line items. So, for instance, we're redesigning our web page, the web design fees would not be necessary to from your budget. A lot of advertising that could be. Obviously, you have properties that they have that would probably not adjust those budgets.
Right. What about, so basically what you're telling me is expenditures and marketing, that would just basically all go away.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Marcy, under the description of sales tax revenue, under 2223 has the word request. I think that might be estimate.
Yes, we use request because right now it's request.
But this is sales tax, right?
It's just the say.
What? Okay, the membership marketing, you've explained that. Oh, revenue from our
Can I ask
our
a rep question?
properties. Okay, that is their lease income. Request, you've got $42,220. That's at the same page. Okay, that should be 84 because we only have one.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Marcy? If we take any of these budget items out and we decide we need them later, all it is put it back in, right?
Yes, you can ask to amend your budget and make that recommendation to the council. The EDC funds are all what we call special revenue funds. They're contained. And so your balance, if you don't spend it, remains in your balance. There's not something that you're having to, ask to be reinstated. But basically the idea would be, to get your expenditures to really where you want to, so that when you have an economic development opportunity present itself, you'll know more realistically what your funds are available if you wanted to provide, some type of incentive, or if there was something you wish to do to fund for a project. So, one of the things we recommended leaving in were your legal fees, your engineering, some of those fees, so that if a project did present itself, that you wouldn't have to amend your budget necessarily. But just like we've amended the budget earlier this year for the project 2025, we can amend your budget whenever you feel a need or there's a project you want to take on.
Well, I think at this point, mostly what needs to go out of there, and I'm comfortable with that. So, does anybody else have an issue with them adjusting this? What do you need, Trish?
I think we should look at the itemized explanation of these things before we just carte blanche.
Well, a lot of the stuff. Now, what I'm talking about is the stuff that Thad had.
Okay.
So,
for instance, chamber luncheon package, catering for our meals, client meetings, sales tax, open meetings, and open records training for staff and board, the IEDC Leadership Summit, annual conference, Texas Economic Development Council. I mean, are we just going to say we're not going to be members of these groups anymore? How about North Texas?
I don't know. That's going to be, we're not going to have anybody to go. Now,
You could go. I mean, we could, if we wanted to, just make sure that you understand this is also taking us out of these groups.
There's actually something, one of the things we actually have to go every 2 years, I believe it is. And so we have to leave that in. But I'm talking about the stuff that was directly involved with Thad, things that he had to
attend.
There were things that he didn't have to, but is being part of the economic development world, put it that way. There were organizations he went to and things of that nature. But what I'm saying, that's not needed now.
We have the chamber items and your meeting items and the training for the sales tax and all of those type of things. Katrina and I went through what memberships you have active, because many of these that are some of them are kind of left over in the line items. So we looked at the ones that you're actually actively members of and carried those forward, like the leadership forum and things like that. So we've paid attention to them individually, and we haven't just carte blanche cut them.
So we could even send, for instance, the mayor to some of these events for economic, or any of us, or another council member, or you. We could send Ms. Katrina if we thought it would be valuable. So you're not eliminating these. Just
no.
Okay. So if you're going to send this to us, it'll reflect that. Are you going to send the itemized so that we can compare them if we want to? Okay, thank you.
Are we looking for a motion?
Well,
Randall,
this is in the action items. What are we looking for, Mr. Mayor?
If I may, maybe the suggested motion would be to approve the worksheet as discussed, making those changes and providing copy back to each EDC member.
Okay.
And for this worksheet to return at your next meeting.
Okay.
For final review.
And we'll get,
You'll probably get this within a week,
Okay.
Friday.
You gonna make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Marcy, do you have common sense? Do you have common sense?
I would like to think I do.
Okay. I would like to make a motion to accept the, what was it called? HCEDC 2022-23 budget worksheets, pending the common sense changes that Marcy Lamb will be instituting.
Okay, do I have a second?
I said,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? You're okay? Okay.
Well, I don't know about that,
That's-
but I.
Yeah, okay. So that one's unanimous. Okay, we're down to 5.3. Discuss, consider, and act adopting the parking lot as a project. I think we decided to do it, but did we actually adopt it as a project? See, I don't think we did the project thing.
The finer,
Right.
the
Yes.
finer details were left out.
Yeah.
what I understood is we have to go to the engineer design. Okay.
So David, do we have an estimate on the cost and everything?
Commission, way I understood it, y'all had wanted the engineers to go away, get y'all a cost and a concept plan done, so that then you have to propose that accept that as a true project. Once you declare it a project, then they finish up the plans and get ready to put it out to bids for y'all. But they would bring probably at your very next meeting, most likely, a fairly probably 60%, 70% type plans that are just about ready to go out on the street. So if there's any last minute things y'all see that y'all go, oh, we'd like to add this or take this out, y'all have that opportunity. This is the general idea, but it's not complete.
Okay. So does somebody want to make the motion to take this on as a project?
There is a cost estimate. There is a cost estimate of $175,000 that came from the engineer.
Stephen is trying to pull up the plan he showed this morning, just in review of various things. Well, the one he had actual parking lot layout with the striping on it. That it had it?
Yeah, it's there, but it's
And the cost estimate that I've seen, and that's correct, $175,000.
Okay.
Which is not in your budget at this point.
So does that $175,000 at this time include the trees and whatever we have to plant to meet
Yes.
city ordinances?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Oh, it's got the striping, the wheel bound, landscaping, restoration, temporary
Right.
watering,
Okay.
all those kind of little things.
thank you.
Okay, so does somebody want to make that motion that we adopt? Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
I want to clarify, this is the Hurley Street EDC parking, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the Hurley Street EDC parking as a project for this to be continued.
Okay. Oh, yeah, just add eligible for funding at the end of your,
I'm going to amend my motion to say accept it as a lot project at 105 Highway 156 North as an economic development project eligible for funding.
good.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Raise your hand. Got it. I got you, Trish. Okay. Let's move on to number 6. Kathleen, what have you got for us?
Mayor, have you got the closing done on Mai Tai? That was to go to the attorney or? your
No, that,
secretary was
we
going to-
have a new firm starting Monday, new attorney firm.
Oh, I see.
And that is on top of their list to receive that contract and review it. And they'll bring it back and I'll submit it to the chair. And for y'all, I mean, or actually to you, you are the head of the real estate aspect of this. I will submit that to you and for your review and comment. And if you have none, and after the attorney's review, then you can execute or will execute. Mr. Morris Blanky would help and actually assist in that, executing that contract for you.
Okay. Does, I still have their $2,000 check. Do you still not want it? Gonna wait for the attorney?
No, let's have a reviewed contract and any comments that might need to be made to that before we cash anything.
Less about cashing things. Should that check be given to Ms. Lamb?
Miss who?
Marcy?
Marcy.
You could, and I'm just sitting here thinking that you might. Well, it's been in safe hands. But you could give it to Marcy just for holding. Put it in the safe. That's a good idea.
Nick, let's see. I tried to get in contact with Annette Lee to see what the progress is on the wrought iron fencing. She has decided it's going to be a 6-foot fence. She's had her man out there. He's done the work as far as cost. They are waiting for material. Yes, sir.
May I? So the office was, the staff, looking at wrapping that up, and that we can't just give money to an entity, but we had to have some contract of sorts. We can't give public money without something established in performance. But also associated with that is that we have to put out some advertisement in the newspaper. Bottom line, it'll cost us more than $2,500 to do this, the office.
No, sir, she's paying for it except for the $2,500 that we had obligated to her for the pipe fencing.
That we
Let me explain.
did the
to
sale
you.
of her of that property have as that as a requirement?
Let me back up. Over a month ago, Dad Chambers emailed me that we were to put up a pipe fence immediately, and that somebody named Leland somebody was going to be able to start that at the end of the week. And the cost was estimated at $2,500. And all I was to do, now there has been some animosity, I think, between Greg Line and Annette Lee, and I don't know if Greg went to you or what, but something caused this fencing problem to come up and not go through this issue here with us. He calls me to go over there and talk to Annette Lee. Okay, so I talked to Annette Lee to get permission to put this fence up. And she goes, absolutely not. And I say, okay. She says, I love a fence and it's going to be a fence, but I don't like that look. I want a classier look and it's going to be wrought iron. And that's how that issue came about. Got back with Fed. So instead of us paying for that $2,500 for that pipe fencing. We were going to donate that money went to her. That's right, to reimburse her for part of her costs. Obviously, that's going to cost more than $2,500.
So here,
And this is an economic development issue.
well, let me
That
describe the
we-
issue.
we
Let me
took-
describe the issue. Is that when Thad brought that to you, EDCB owned that property, and you could do whatever you want to with it without anybody's permission. And that was the intent. That was Thad's intent at that time. Now, when it rolled over and that property was sold now, and so you could have spent that money
No,
without further action because you
Mayor.
adopted it as a project.
Mayor, that was already sold to her.
Not at that time.
Yes, a month ago? Yes.
Well, it's been almost 2 months ago when those.
It had not sold yet. We were about to close, and we stand as the economic, or as the property management board, that was a contingency on the sale of the property.
If it's in the contract, then that's a different avenue.
Then we need to look at the
Right,
contract.
and we've been looking for that contract. Okay, great.
Can you look at it and tell us if that's part of the contract? If not, we don't owe that money. No problem.
So that was our next step, to see if this was part of the contingent upon the sale. What we're doing is when from that, when that pipe fence was going to be built, EDC owned that property, and you can make that in property improvement without doing public notifications and public hearings, et cetera. But now it's a different situation. Someone else owns that property. EDC does not. And now you want to give this private property owner some money. You can't give public money like that.
We understand that. The only
Right.
reason that we're considering this is because we understood it was part of the contingency of the.
We're going to confirm
land
that,
sale.
and Katrina will report back to you whether that contract was contingent and had that language in there about that fence. Otherwise, it'll cost the city more to follow the local government code in the process of advertising, notifying, giving public money. It'll cost us more than $2,500. So we'll bring it back to you.
Okay. Are you to the mowing yet? Oh, okay.
Okay, then I got a text message from a Morgan Halsey asking the ability to buy, saying that she wanted to buy the house at 120 Main Street. I did not return that call. I thought it best to come here first, because my understanding and the way we left this is that property was no longer for sale. So if that's changed, or if y'all want to change that.
We're talking about the house that Mike spoke in. Or I'm concerned, they're all of it. Well,
If this is for sale, that's fine. Y'all can decide on that. I have no issues one way or the other. But if we're going to sell it, then it's got to be put on the market. We've got to go through all this rigmarole, like you said. We've got to have it evaluated, yada, 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 and then put it up on the market.
well, I don't know that we put it in market as long as we get fair value for it.
But I remember this coming up, that if it wasn't going to be the current rent or purchasing it, then we weren't just going to sell at this.
Okay. I honestly don't remember the conversation. I remember us talking about selling it to the dentist, and then he didn't want it, and then I don't remember what we discussed after that. So I'm gonna have to plead the fifth.
All right, so
But-
let me refresh your memory. We put these 3 items up for sale. Haslett Feed, Mai Tai, and Mike's Pro.
To the renters.
Okay. So I go to all 3. 2 of them are interested in buying, okay? And Mike Bedford got back to me a couple days later and informed me that in no way was he going to be able to buy the property. Wife
I
informed him, his wife
that.
informed him there will be no more mortgage. She did not want a mortgage. So when I brought it here and explained that to y'all, your decision that you mentioned was, well, let's just leave it alone. They make their payment on time and we'll leave it as is. And that's fine. If y'all want to change that, that's fine with me. But you need to let John Thomas and I know what y'all wanted.
Well, I think what I was saying was that we had just probably discussed it enough, and we didn't have anybody want to buy it, so we'd just move on and collect the rent until somebody wanted to buy it. But as far as I'm concerned, all the property is for sale.
Well, once again, there is a process that we need to go through if we're going to put this on the market, because it's not an economic development project like Mai Tai and Haslett.
Okay.
This is a more complicated sell. It's just not, somebody can come up and offer. We're going to have to go probably a real estate agent, but it's going to have to be appraised.
Well, it has
That's
to be
right,
appraised, yeah.
appraised and put out there on the market. Let the public know that it is for sale. This is not just a,
What do you think,
somebody
Mayor?
walk up and say,
Well,
oh,
first off, so I'm gonna make the disclaimer. I'm surprised. I didn't know my daughter was interested in buying that house. My daughter is her own woman. Please understand that, and I don't get it. And if you've met her, you probably can ascertain she's minds her business and I get to mind mine. But nonetheless, what I do want to say, if you're going to put a listing out there, okay, yes, you do have to do that, regardless of what property. You got other properties, I think some over there by the Baptist church, I think. But if you're to sell if you wanted to list those out there, yes, you need to do that to get the appraisal. And as if a party comes in and calls you up and says, I want to make an offer on your property, then, well, everything's for sale if you got the right price. But if you're making a public offering out there, I mean, you haven't made a public offering entertaining anybody's offer. And I think maybe even a chiropractor's been out here before looking at that place. And that's fine. You can do that. A business or, huh?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just knew it was somebody.
But that's legal to do. You can do those things, whomever it is. But if you want to, I won't put it out there with a real estate agent, then you've got to go through that process.
Yeah, I think as long as we get an up-to-date appraisal of the property, and as long as we sell it for the appraised value or more, I don't think we have to advertise it. I don't know of any legal reason we would have to advertise it.
I think Kathleen is right. That if we're going to sell a piece of property, we can't just take an offer. We have to advertise it. I think I would want our attorney's opinion on this before we made any decision tonight.
Yeah, I
but,
think
but
that's
when
probably.
the city sold a vacant lot next to a business on Schoolhouse Road, we had to open it up to all bidders, even though he came to us and wanted to buy this lot. So we had to go through this formal process because that's just the way it's done. So
Okay.
y'all, before we do anything, if you're interested, I mean, we could vote that we would like to pursue it, but we need to get legal advice on that.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, why don't you get the attorney's opinion on that, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Swank, will you make a note of that, please? And Katrina, please make a note of that.
And I just wanted to throw this out there. I do believe we have had other calls recently, an interest in the vacant lot as well, and other interest in the house, I believe. So,
Well, let's find out what our minimum requirements are. Let's talk about, go ahead.
The vacant lot up there near the church, we had not been interested in selling to protect the possibility of restaurants being able to sell
liquor.
out.
Right.
Just to refresh.
No, I
Okay.
remember that, and we've had this discussion before. I think the person wanting to buy it isn't over here. Well, that's why we're going to find out. So I think, well, I don't remember, but anyway, I think at this point, the sale of properties is not going to happen any further until we get an attorney's opinion. So
That's really what we were requesting was, we don't know enough to negotiate anything. Let's have an attorney's opinion.
Sir, we're not real estate agents here, the two of us on this committee,
I
and we're
understand,
not attorneys.
but I would like for you to turn into executive session. We can discuss that a little bit.
okay. Well, let's see. What else have we got to do?
wait, we don't have that posted on as executive session unless we are going to call the attorney.
Can't go into executive session. Okay. Okay. So then let's move on to the next thing, which is the mowing contract, I think, isn't it? Are we there yet?
I'm finished.
Well, I gave you the mowing contract. There was 3 of them. Because we need to talk about that. Yeah, because we need to,
Okay, so what has happened? Randall has gotten 3 contracts here for mowing. One is for 1.1 acres on Westport Parkway and 2.1 acres on Westport Parkway for $275. Now, may I ask you, does that mean per month?
I
Does
don't
that
know.
mean-
This was what, Trina? What's the,
Mike Thetford collected these estimates, and I understand that to be per
monthly
time they mow
maintenance?
it,
Is that a monthly maintenance deal or one-time thing?
one time.
Okay.
That is my understanding.
And then for Highway 156 in Hurley, it's $275. And then for 210 Main Street, it's $275. So all 3 of them are $275 for each time they mow.
Okay.
How often are they mowing?
Well, that's just what we were talking about. I think we're talking about a one-time thing right now. Clean them up.
Let me ask this. May I make a
sure.
comment, Chair? I actually got this started, and it has to do with the properties here in Old Town. We would like to change our image up a little bit, and let's keep these properties, and we're making an effort in public works and maintaining some right of ways that we didn't use to. And so it's difficult to approach residents to clean up their properties, keep them mowed and things of that nature if we don't do it with the city-owned properties. So this would be a regular mowing as needed. Right now, if we clean it up once, I'm sure throughout the rest of August, September, you won't need to touch it again. but it is to keep it ready. If you're going to own property, keep it maintained to be attractive and to complement the old town. And we start by setting the example to others. That was the whole motivation of it. And so also, I don't know the details of this, but I heard Mike Thacker speaking of it. David, maybe you might know more about it. But yes, there was a bid on all three. And I heard the comment, but if you do all three and he can mow all three at the same time when they come out, he'll knock $200 off the whole package. But I don't know if that's at this, about $275 for property. Is that what you said? I don't know if it's at $275 for property. So that would be, what's that, $275? Help me out here. 3 times is what? 6. Yeah, over $700. But they would knock 7.5, but they would knock 200 off of that. Okay, so you could get all three at 5.5 thereabout.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah.
The 210 Main Street, though, we have a agreement with Annette Lee that she maintains it for the use of the garage on it.
Oh, that's true. I hadn't thought about that.
210 Main Street, where's that at?
At the vacant lot. I think if we go down there, it's cleaned off. It's mowed, yeah. So we really don't need to mow that one.
Just the two?
Just the two.
Then probably it would be $275 a lot.
Well, I mean, there's no use to mow a lot that doesn't.
So
mow
I plan on, $550, and it may be less.
Yeah.
Additionally, Hurley Street doesn't need to be mowed. We're about to build a parking lot on it.
True. Well, yeah, except by the time that gets done, it probably needs to be mowed right now.
Oh, okay.
So that, yeah, it's not gonna, this parking lot's not gonna happen that fast. It's probably gonna be end October before they start moving dirt.
So
I thought, but
are we saying that,
Well, end of September.
so was it about 3 acres? Is that what I heard correctly that we're looking at?
No, actually, the only thing left that needs to be mowed would be where the parking lot's gonna go, and then across the road. Yeah, the Westport, which most of that's gravel. It's just around the edges. So I'm not,
I have a question. I couldn't understand the beginning of this item. Are we saying an outside person will mow?
Yeah, it's just somebody
Not one of our guys with our brand new mower?
No.
Why is that?
because they don't have time to get
Okay.
what has to be done.
This is the city.
Could we pay the city to do it though?
We would rather that you hire a contractor.
So
They have plenty to do.
yeah, they hadn't got time to do what they need to do.
And the lease committee probably remembers that they can approve up to $1,500
Yeah.
out of these budgets.
So we
you guys
really
can-
don't need to vote on this. This is just, y'all do your thing. Call this guy and take care of it. Okay. So that's all of you. Okay. Number 7, updates on current EDC activities. And that would be Mr. Swanky or whoever. Do we have any updates?
Well, the
I'll
report,
be happy to go. Will you go down that report? The blue items are your recent activity. Nothing, all the, such as Highway 35 frontage. There's nothing new to report since your last report. Under Hcedc Parkway right-of-way acquisition, I'll bring you up to the date as of about 2 days ago. How about that? Because you're trailing a month on these reports. This one here is Hcedc City Attorney is negotiating for final agreement on deal points. Okay, that has been completed. That happened to be with the Gateway property. That was the condemnation property. And it went to condemnation, and we, it was judged that we owed an additional $19,000, and okay, fine. And then there were certain deal points within the contract that were negotiated back and forth that finally got agreement by both, by City of Haslett and the other parties' attorneys. And that has been signed off. And that document maybe is about 2 or 3 days ago was sent to the court. And they do the final signature. That's where it is. And that will be all over with. That's the latest on Haslett Parkway right-of-way acquisition. If we go to Haslett Feed and Farm, if I can't see that, the bottom of it. Okay, there's nothing to report on that. The Mai Tai restaurant, again, that contract is, we will forward that actually Monday to our, well, thank you very much. We lost the screen over here. Oh, it's up there.
Yeah, it gets a little closer to the eye.
Okay, is that the contract will be forwarded to our attorneys for their review and comment, and then I will, or Mr. Morris, I will have Mr. Morris be that conduit, not me. But I'll be introductory. I got to, introduce him to the different parties, but forward that to both of you, Mr. Thomas, Ms. Golden, for your review of that contract, your final review of it, and see that it meets your approval as well. And then it does so, then you go execute the agreement. Now, if you want some, such as Mr. Morris or the city can handle that execution for the EDC, I'm not being presumptuous, because I recognize you are your own corporation. So if you want us to assist in the execution of that, with your approval, we'll be happy to do so.
Up until Thad resigned, he had been taking care of that. I believe do you want to be involved in that? Can you take care of that, Mr. Swanky? Okay, then that seems like the better solution.
Very good. To go with the marketing activities, the website. This is rolled up into one of the things that we're doing in the city, and is to a redesign of our website. And what that means functionally is we're stripping this thing down. It's, right, Haslett.org is, did you know you had a HaslettEDC.com out there? Your own dedicated website?
Yes.
Has anybody been on it? So what we're proposing is that goes away. You don't need a dedicated. So if someone goes to Haslett.org, you'll be easily directed to economic development, and you can each owner have websites, A and B, or it could be combined. And we'll give a description on there. But overall, the Haslett.org website is going to be stripped down, and we're going to start over with the fundamentals so people can find their information easily. And then we'll build on that. Right now, it's very complicated. We've gotten lots of comments on how difficult it is to find certain items that are just not fundamental to everyday life, and activity. But so that's what we want to do, is address the fundamentals, make that easy. Then we can build on it in a way that complements everything. So that's our task at hand. And then along with that would be incorporating the EDCs. Go ahead, Katrina. Katrina and Shannon and others are much more involved in that than I am. I'm just, given an overview, but please, Katrina, go ahead.
We are still in the redesign phase, but one of the ideas is to have a premier page for the economic development on the Haslett.org page. So it would be an enhanced page with all of the information there as opposed to a separate website. But we are not there yet. We're in about phase 3 of 5 or 6 phases on the redesign. So we will bring it to you when we have more information. But I just wanted to make it clear because you guys were paying for the website, for the edc.com website.
Okay, I think that wraps up the construction update. Mr. Rogers is the man to do that, and he's got a very good update. Okay.
Is he going to give us the update on the tennis court as well?
I can do both. All right. Did you get that good picture? That's a better picture if you want to see a better picture of the little picture. I can read the words easy enough. It's easier to see the picture up there and know what I'm talking about when you see it. Yeah, because that tells you where the zones are, how we design, how we deal with this project and what we call it. Okay, and don't look, because that also gets rid of the date that was on there that is way off. This is not February the 16th. This is as of actually July the 21st. In zone 5.1 and 5.2, that's the section there. I-35 has the Y in it. From I-35 down to Harmon Road, all of the asphalt underlayment has been completed. The outside lanes on both sides of the road, both east and west, have the rebar laid down over. They completed the last piece of that, matter of fact, today, as well as moved in the concrete laydown machine. They were out calibrating and getting it set up. Plans are by possibly the end of the week. They might actually be starting some concrete pavement, open. But for sure this weekend, they will be paving the other lane of the intersection at Harmon Road. That part will be completed this weekend. That's their plans. Complete that all out over the weekend, let it set. You know, we'll be a couple of weeks out, but eventually here soon, we'll finally get Harmon Road 2 lanes again across there instead of signalized with temporary signals. But that's what's going on in that little piece. Then we go from Harmon, which is the 3.2 up to Intermodal Parkway intersection. That one there, we have the asphalt underlayment also is installed, and the rebar has been completed on that section all the way to the intersection now. So that one is also ready for payment, which is their plans are over the next 3 to 6 weeks. Most of this section is going to be paved. At least for sure, 1 lane will be paved. They have the section 4.1 and 4.2, which are the intersection of Intermodal and Haslett Parkway and Intermodal Parkway. The bridge has been completed. The deck all is done. They plan actually to be pouring the concrete on that deck within the next 3 weeks. They've got a crew set to do that. And they're gonna, as soon as the lanes, as they move that machine down, when they get to that intersection, they will jump the intersection, but they will start up Intermodal Parkway and then come back down the other side of Intermodal Parkway. And then our section 3.1, which goes from that intersection to the bridge, our Haslett Parkway Bridge, that has also been all the underlayment done. There is nothing, they're doing the outside rebar is being installed now. They're doing the bridge now. They do have it already on the bridge. Bridge is already complete. As soon as they pour the first bridge on Intermodal, they are going to pour that section on the bridge. And the last zone is zone 2, which is the last part all the way up to the school. That one, all the asphalt underlayment's done, sewer lines installed, completed, tested, passed. As I said, the bridge deck, it's all completed there. So those things are all completed out, ready. They'll be working on rebar on that as time comes along. But the big fun is that we got approval for, and the section that we call the L, which is Intermodal Parkway, Haslett Parkway intersection to I-35 has been approved to be opened early. They are going to finish that section out. And by March of next year, at the end of March, it'll be probably early April with things the way they are, but that will be open to traffic by that point. Hcedc didn't pay a dime. Some of the developers, though, in some of those industrial areas out there did want that so seriously that they helped put up the funding for that. Just Mayor Halsey has been working diligently trying to get this section done and get them to open that and making sure that we weren't going to pay for this part.
I want to give credit to the developers out there. They funded a significant portion of that, as well as Tarrant County Precinct 3 funded a significant portion. And all of them, it was 4 partners in there. Well, actually 5, including Haslett, but the 4 main contributors, about all equal amounts of money. So that was COG, Tarrant County, and the developers, 2 developers. They made that a success. It was done a little differently when first conceived of the idea. We approached the developers first. So I had all the private funding ready, and then I took it to the other public entities, and they couldn't say no. So the important piece is now Hcedc does have a $368,000 obligation out there as part of this deal, which is a very small piece of that pie. The good news is Hcedc has over $13 million invested in this project. 6 of it from the EDCs and 7 being underwritten by TERS. And TxDOT they're managing the project for us by contract, and also they manage the books. And at their last look at it, and we have a weekly meeting on this project, as well as I talk to the area director regularly, about every 2 weeks. And that what they're showing right now is at the end of this project is going well. And Hcedc stands to receive about $1.5 million in savings. But they have about $1.5 million right now, what they call is funds that they hold. That's Hcedc's, and it's called unencumbered funds. And that's where that $368,000 is coming from, is the money they already have, but will be getting in savings. So that project, yes, there was a price to be paid to accelerate that construction, but Hcedc is going to be done, and the cost to Hcedc is net zero. There's no checks written.
Well, the other part that you might have it's not as pretty, I guess, as the other part is right now, but the Zone 1, you'll see Atmos Energy's crews out there. They're already working on the low pressure gas line relocations. They're getting the stuff pre-set up for that section. They've moved back the fences on about 80% of that. They still got a few areas they got to move some fencing back temporarily, but they are getting ready to start those. We're waiting. Encore hasn't completed their stuff yet to make their movements of their utilities, but the bigger one was getting Atmos started, because Atmos has 2. They have 2 projects to do. They got a low pressure line they're moving back, which they're doing first. Then they have to come back in, and they've got a high pressure gas line, which is going to be a little more complicated. It's going to take a little longer. They're going to start it second. Hopefully between the 2, Encore gets their thing and gets out of the way the other way, and things will be ready to go.
Is that the yellow and the steel
That's
pipe?
the yellow and the steel pipe you see laying on the sides of the road out there, and those big machines sitting there. That's what they're there to do. So yeah, if you got any other questions about it, as I say, the project's going well. All right, move on to the next. Get that one. Hold up. All right. As you can see there with what Stephen will probably be pulling up, we have some basic plans. They're not, design plans yet, but they're concept plans already started for the site. We've already taken this to the park board, and we're going back to the park board with some more exciting, more things for them to start working on. But you'll see in the budget, that's basically where they're at. Size is roughly, I think we got it about figured out. I'm going to finish it tomorrow. I think we're going to see things are looking better price wise. So we're going to try to add about 10 or 12 feet to those just to have the extra run out space for pickleball, to have a little more room for run outs. So we're going to try to figure that out tomorrow morning. Matter of fact, we have a meeting to discuss that. And then the budget, this is what Thad and I had worked on towards the very end, which is the last slide I think y'all have. Other ones are just kind of drawings, things what's going on. But this is the most important part for me. This is the money. We have money to do this. Thanks to y'all's 200,000. Then the other monies that we had in our park budget, because the cost went higher than anticipated when we started getting into this, the other projects we were going to do, the upper trail and all, we were having to move them out, but that's all right. And we got to keep projects every year, so that's okay. We want to get this one done because this is a long time. I know I've had this on my list of things, I want to say 21 years roughly now that we've been talking about this. I was talking with George the other day about it. I know for a fact him and I have worked on at least 3 concept plans for tennis courts in this park over the years. So it's been a long time coming. So I'm ready to see this one get off the ground. So where it's the hope right now, we should have 60% plans at the next park board meeting next month coming up for them to go over. And then if they agree with what we got, we hope to finish those out and get this thing ready to go to bid so we can start sometime, hopefully right after the first of our new budget in October. I'd like to see it finished by Christmas, but I think I'm wishing too much, but it sure would be fun. Other than that, if y'all got questions about it, I'll do my best to answer them.
I was under the impression that we were replacing the volleyball court and now it's moved across the pathway. What happened?
The one thing was the cost to demolish and take all of that out, plus the grades over there. By the time you did it, we'd also have to move the sidewalk. We'd have to move a number of things at the same time, everything from irrigation to a bunch of things. So incidental started running the cost up higher than, let's just pick the thing up and move on the other side of the sidewalk where we don't have those problems, where the ground's a little flatter to deal with in the first place. We have less grading to do. That was to try to keep the cost down. You're welcome.
Okay, so anyway, this is my last meeting, so I'm retiring, and I know that y'all will do fine. We've done a lot of good work. We've done a lot in the park. I'm fixing to do something else here with the tennis courts, so I think we've done really well spending our money. And I mean,
Thank you for
well, thank you. Like I said, I love every one of you, and I want to see y'all do well. And I may come to some of the meetings if I'm not out at my daughter's baling hay.
Randall, how long have you been doing this?
Oh, God. Kathleen, what is it? Is it been 15 years, maybe? So nearly 20 years. But I know y'all will do fine, and like I said, I'll be coming up occasionally and sitting out in the audience. So, if nobody has anything else, I don't know of anything else we need on the agenda. I guess your next meeting is going to be August 24th in Katrina. I don't know whether an item needs to be on there for them to discuss how they're going to handle this. Your regular elections come up the end of September anyway. So I think the vice chair just takes up and runs with it for 2 months, and then y'all decide as a committee how you're going to handle it, okay? All right. So my last meeting is adjourned. Do what? Oh, it's 8:13. I'm sorry. Oh, it is now. Thank you all. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir.